And you'll notice that actually Webpack ran successfully. But there's no config. There's no config. So Webpack by default, before Webpack 4, you really were only required to specify 2 properties, your input and your output. And we were like, we don't need to do that. People don't need to do that. If we do it by default, then people don't even have to use a config, and they can get started really easily, like you all have done today, just using Webpack for the first time, literally just now. Webpack looks for an entry property, and we default to source and then index.js. And actually, we don't even specify that much. We just say, I think that is all we provide there. So let's say down the road you add a config and you want to support TypeScript. It could just be index.ts, and you'd never have to provide that entry property. But you do see this really helpful warning, and we say, hey, you didn't set a mode option. You really should. We fell back to production mode anyways, but here's where you can learn some more. And we'll cover what mode is. So now we can actually run Webpack from our scripts. We have access to run it now. This is what we would pass to like our CI system. We'd have Node installed, and we would just run this command after you doing an npm install. But we can take it a step further. npm has this awesome capability to compose scripts. So, or I guess I should say it started with npm, and Yarn supports it as well. But so let's say, running just npm Webpack, there might be different environments that you want to build in. And so much that we're enforcing you now to think about that we have a mode property that specifies development or production. If you can provide that information, oh, I'm just my local dev environment, and tell Webpack that, we created this property so that we could optimize for build speed over production quality, or vice versa, depending on what mode you're in. And so you have the ability to compose scripts. So if you wanted to pass, let's say, a mode, like the mode property to Webpack without the config, you can still do so. But we don't want to have to basically write out this command every single time. And we can just call the original command, but just add on to it. So add a dev property, and you can actually call an existing command. So npm run Webpack. And then with this syntax here, so this dash dash, this basically says pipe in the next arguments onto the original command. So I can say this, mode development. So now you can compose without having to basically rewrite. When these get pretty large or over the top, you're going to start noticing that you have a billion scripts here. And so if you need to make a change, you want to make a change once, and it affects the other commands as desired. And so why don't we just try running this and see what it gives us. So npm run dev. And you can even see, it even tells you, hey, it took this, and then now we just converted it to this here. And there we go. And even the feedback has changed. If you look at the top, you get some slightly different reporting information. Instead now we show, instead of IDs for the modules, we show the source path to the module. And we even format it in a way that if you're using, who's using VS Code here? If you haven't tried it yet, dip yourself into the waters and try it for the first time, and you'll never go back to anything else. I'll just say that. Unless you're working on Java all day and you might need IntelliJ or whatever. But VS Code is it's so nice. It can provide you this little string, and I can command click and boom, instantly to the module. And you'll see here I don't even have anything in here. Webpack can still consume that though. It's just looking for that resolved file, and it collects a source. So why don't we, now dev is not going to be our only environment. Why don't we add a prod script as well? So prod, and we'll do the same thing, except our mode is going to be production. and let's run it. I keep forgetting, npm run prod. There we go. So this is back to the original default that Webpack falls back to if you're not providing a mode. But we really feel the obligation to encourage you to think about having 2 different environments for your build. It's super important. It's what can allow you to have faster builds or more optimized builds. So let's see here. We could probably take this code. Why don't we just commit it to our, well, I don't want to commit it to this branch. Maybe I'll just jump to the next one here. So we have a bunch of branches, and I kind of have little micro steps. So the next one is debug scripts. So essentially, like, I love providing escape hatches. Who has ever even like debug a node process before? One of like the most painful things is trying to like console log your way through a node app or a node script. And it's no different if you're wanting to debug why Webpack's doing something. And so let's see if we can check it out. So git checkout feature /0, what did I call it, 03? Let's try it. Okay. We can jump to, yeah, why don't we just jump straight to it? And then I'm just going to use force because it's probably going to be like, but you have unstaged changes. There we go.